Hello everybody, welcome back to another tree tutorial. So we have these silhouettes that we created, so let's grab one of these. I'm going to show another approach. I'm just copying that, I'm going to paste it into a new location here. Once I have that, I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger just to take advantage of our canvas size, just with Control T and center the tree on the canvas. Now I'm going to create a new layer and hold Alt and hover between the layers here. You'll see the icon changes slightly. We're going to click that. That'll basically mask it to this layer, anything that I add in here. And I want to actually create two of these. The first one's going to be kind of the trunk area. And we're going to create another one. And this one's going to be, we're going to call this one leaves. And right now we're just going to focus on the trunk area. Let's not worry about too much else other than that at this point. So let's start by choosing our base colors for the tree. I'm going to choose two colors here to start with, kind of going to go with sort of your classic brown tan kind of color here. And then I'm going to choose another one that's a little bit darker, a little less saturation. And this one, we're going to take these and I'm going to hit G, which opens up your bucket tool here. And if you hit Shift G, it'll cycle through, or you can just click up here, I think, and get the different options. Perhaps that's not the case. Well, anyways, we hit Shift G and it cycles through the brush. You can see it here, changing up here on the top left until we get the gradient. And I'm just going to use the transparent gradient. And you could choose your different gradients. Like I could just go in here and use the solid one, drag it across. That actually probably be just as easy. In this case, I'm going to use a transparent one so it can give me a little more, just a little bit more control. Like I can drag some different areas, things like that. So do I want, now basically I can take this, I can go darker on the top or lighter on the bottom, or however we want to kind of approach this. Maybe we'll do a kind of mixture. If you wanted, you could actually go to the radial instead of the linear, and we can kind of think about maybe a little bit of lighting here, kind of hints of lighting hitting the branches and things like that. And I'm just going to hit a few spots here, kind of get our general lighting. Once we have that kind of blocked in, I'm going to grab a really soft brush and I'm going to use that kind of a similar way I was using the gradient, and just kind of follow along some of this lighting a little bit. And maybe we'll even bring in a little more color down here. I'm just kind of going along and creating form on top of that silhouetted tree. And I'm going to turn down the opacity just a little bit more. And going to go on the back here. So you can see I'm starting to get a little more shape and form in this. Pretty basic, not really anything too advanced. I'm just basically trying to think about this bending and turning and twisting. Maybe a little bit of light over here, hitting that on the base. So basically I'm just kind of pretty simple stuff here. I'm going to put the opacity up again, just hit 0 to do that. I'm going to start kind of blocking in where the light might be hitting and blocking from up here, from where the leaves might be draping down, or back here this might be in shadow a little bit more than everything else. Just, it's really soft work here. It's not, I'm not really doing too much. I don't have to think about things too much at this point. You'll see once I go to the next phase, it'll look a little bit better. And if you had a situation here where, see where some of my silhouette is breaking through, and you can kind of see the base. Let's just grab, hit X, or I mean D, and that'll reset your colors back to black and white. I'm going to fill those areas in really quick, just so we have a nice solid tree. Maybe even just alter the shape slightly now that we have some of this stuff blocked in. Maybe this, just follow these curves a little bit. That's not too important. Maybe I'll have another branch kind of come off this side here. Okay, now that we have that in place, we could go ahead and block the leaves out next. So I'm going to choose a color for the leaves. We're going to go with kind of a sort of a yellowy green. This is kind of a bonsai type tree. And I'm just going to block these in really quick. There we go. Just following along where it looks like I kind of silhouetted out those leaves. There we go. And then we have a few kind of loose ones, and I'll just fill those in really quick too. Okay, now with this one, it's on top of this layer, and I want to paint within only this layer. And I'm gonna try something. We're gonna hit the lock layer here. I believe anything, yeah, there we go. Now anything I paint in here will just stay within that green one. And this is a similar idea with this one under here. But I want, for this layer, I want everything to stay within the green areas as well. So I'm actually undo that really quick. I'm gonna turn that off just a second. I noticed that I kind of painted across a few areas here. Okay, now that we have that in place, we're gonna turn that back on. It's like a layer mask. So it's locked transparent pixels. So now anything I paint here will stay within these pixels. And we're going to take a similar approach. I'm going to hit G for the gradient tool. We're going to go back to radial and choose, hold Alt and choose colors to fill both of these colors. Now I'm going to go and choose one of them to be significantly darker. The other one, maybe I'll go a little darker, a little more saturation. And now I can just put my opacity up, hang 0. And I'm just going to drag across here in a few spots. And once again, maybe I'll use the radial one again too, and use that kind of to highlight some key areas where I want to brighten things up. Okay, there we go. That's kind of the general idea, and maybe we'll just grab a brush here and sort of darken it up a little bit more. Choose a little darker color, and it's kind of give it some general texture and think about the form and shape. And you could look at leaves as kind of similar to clouds or something like that. And I'm kind of to darken up behind it a little bit, and I'll come up in front and then bring a few leaves forward, and just kind of a little bit of texture. You could use a speckle brush or a splatter brush or something like that. That would probably work pretty good. And for time's sake, I'm just kind of rushing with this a little bit so we can get kind of the whole tutorial done quickly without focusing too much on rendering, and just kind of focusing on different approaches to getting to that point where you can spend some more time rendering. Because really rendering is just all about time. Getting a good base is what you really need. Okay. Maybe I'll have a few of these leaves pop out with a little bit brighter color. That's a good general base. Now let's go back to our trunk layer here. And I'm going to actually create another layer on top of this. And then any of this is going to go on top of the brown. And I'm going to set this one to either the multiply or overlay. Multiply, everything will be darker. If I use overlay, I could have a little bit more control if I wanted like brighter areas. For this, I just kind of want to go in and focus on kind of the shape and the spinning and twisting of these branches. And see how this is starting to add so much flow and form to this tree already? This is a similar approach to last time that we took, except this time I'm just going straight to color and kind of saving these line bits more as a final rendering part instead of instead of exploring the convex, or not the convex, but the curvature of the tree. It's the same idea really, but this time we're focusing on having color in there already. You can kind of get the spiraling nature of this tree going through here. It's really fun to have it kind of feel like it bends and turns. And once you have that in there with the basic shapes, you can come back in and maybe make either another layer or go back and modify some of your previous painting. Like you can see here, this probably should be darker back here. We can come back and edit that as we go. But I feel like this is a pretty good base to start with. It would be nice maybe if we had another branch coming forward here. We're just going to keep pulling forward with that. And I'm just trying to think of different ways that the tree maybe has some interesting characteristics where the trunk's kind of twirling and spiraling together. I'm just zooming around a lot here. You can see how it kind of cuts in and out. I'm trying to, maybe this needs to be reworked a little bit so it kind of spirals correctly into this branch a little bit better. And then you can kind of think about how some of these other branches might connect. But see how much life this is adding to this tree, how much movement. If we go back and just turn this one layer off, look how flat it looks without it. This one layer can add so much dimension. All these contour lines really start to fill out your tree. But we still have that good strong silhouette since we based it on that silhouette. And you have a few little, notches and marks and things like that, kind of little bits of texture and things like that. From here, you could go have some darker spots. Here's where maybe the overlay would have been a good idea. If I go back to overlay, it's going to be a little brighter like that. But say I take this, hit Control U, and then Control U brings up my hue saturation. I go into a darker area, so I can kind of modify that. And then what I can do now is I can color pick and get a lighter color. If I have a lighter color, it's going to create a highlight. Let's make it more of a white color. And now we're getting like that little, I can just use the same layer and add a little bit of highlight since it's set to overlay instead of multiply. And kind of a little bit of light just hitting these edges. And we can also grab color pick from these other areas and add some more dark areas. It's a little too dark. Let's go a little lighter here. There we go. And you can see I can kind of bring out little pops of highlights. That's the bonus of, or the benefit and bonus of using overlay versus multiply. It kind of does two, it works for two birds with one stone sort of situation. In this case, two barks with one tree. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I made that joke. But anyways, if you could call it a joke. So I just keep kind of pushing and pulling. Well, not pushing and pulling, but just sort of adding little details and bringing in little bits of texture and stuff. I have been using a chalk brush here. Maybe we'll just pull a little bit of that texture on top. And I'm playing with the opacity as I go along here, just hitting the number keys on my keyboard to get a little bit of extra information. A little bit of, so you'll see my opacity. Oh, I did that on the actual layer itself. You notice you can do that as well if you hit the number keys if you don't have your brush out. So now we have that. We could go in and maybe make another layer. And this one we are just going to set it to multiply. And this layer this is like another shadowing layer, something like that. And maybe to touch up some of these areas that we didn't properly create shadows for. And this just kind of gets into the rendering options or whatnot. And once again, this layer actually could be set to overlay if I wanted to bring out some highlights and stuff. But yeah. So there's a really quick tutorial on getting a tree kind of to a pretty decent point of rendering. And from here you could just add some more texture and things like that and just spend more time on it basically. We see how those contour lines added so much to this. But yeah. So in the next tutorial, we'll probably focus on a different kind of tree, maybe a pine tree or something like that, and see if we can have another approach for everyone to try out. If you have any questions or anything like that, just leave a comment below. If you liked the video, hit the like button. If you really liked it, subscribe and turn on notifications for upcoming videos. And I'd love to hear from everybody. If you have suggestions and comments, whatnot, just leave them down in the comments below. And possibly maybe something you didn't understand or something that I could explain a little further, etc. And I will include a link to my brushes somewhere in below as well, so you can kind of follow along. And I was mainly just using that chalk brush and a soft brush, and those will both be included in the pack as well. And thanks again for checking out my tutorials, and have a wonderful day and subscribe. Thank you. Farewell.